Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Festival of Hope. We are in week 3 of our festival, and we are recognizing the high holiday of Yom Kippur. This is a high holiday, the holiest day of the year in the Jewish calendar, and our theme this week is influenced and inspired by the Yom Kippur high holiday. So I am delighted to be welcoming today our award-winning author and journalist, Leslie Gay Streeter, who is going to be joining me to talk a little bit about Yom Kippur and kind of the overarching meaning and the experience of learning about a tradition that wasn't one that you grew up with. So welcome with me, if you would, Leslie Gay Streeter.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for making
Thank
time to join
you.
today. So, as you heard me say in the intro, we're talking about Yom Kippur today, and the theme that we've chosen is release and renewal. Though I know that the theme for Yom Kippur is forgiveness and atonement.
Absolutely.
So, would you just give me a little bit about what you know about Yom Kippur personally? And again, we're approaching this from a different direction today. Oftentimes, and we will have people. Our next community video will be more specific information about Yom Kippur, especially from the point of view of someone. We have Sue Knight Deutsch joining us later this week, who is a cantor and who for whom
Wonderful.
Yom Kippur is a wonderful and meaningful holiday. She'll talk a little bit more about the religious aspects of the holiday, but what I'd like from you is just to hear a little bit about your experience of Yom Kippur, and I'll leave it with that.
Absolutely. Well, I was married for 5 years to a lovely, nice Jewish boy named Scott Servitz, he felt religious in the way that he felt faithful. He did not practice and that he did not go to temple all the time or keep kosher. And also he married me, who is not
So
Jewish.
there's that.
There you go. There's that. But my understanding, and he took these things very seriously in terms of the spirituality, that the beginning of it's part of a week that starts with Rosh Hashanah, which is, the beginning of the new year and the opening of the book of life. And that through this time, you are thinking about the things that you have to atone for, the things of the year, your hopes for the next year and for the next opening of that book, because the book will close today or is closing today. So there's fasting and there's just a lot of contemplation about the previous year. Obviously, everyone has had a super, super duper year. So I know that many of my friends who are Jewish, who are practicing, and those who are very, conscious of that on days like today, are talking about fitting the usual thoughts that you have about, like anyone does in a new year or a new time, about renewal and forgiveness and the things that you would like to do better. And they've placed that in this this current COVID time, because everybody's year is nuts. Everybody's year has been unexpected, and the ways that we've responded to the things that have happened to us that are not how maybe we would usually respond. And there is no end to this. COVID's not going to be over tomorrow, so as we begin a new period and a new book of life and a new year and a new season, we are still in this season of uncertainty. We're still in the season of uncertainty with this election coming up. We're about flu season and how that's going to react with the virus and stuff. So I know that a lot of my friends, once again, who are observing this time, are very conscious of the things that they can do within themselves to make that this new normal that we talk about something that is beneficial and is meaningful to them. Like I said, my husband and I celebrated these things, and we would hang out with friends of ours. His mother actually died 6 months after we got married, Rosh Hashanah, 2010. And so we were there the whole time. And he used to joke and said that, because she'd say, "Are you coming home for the holidays?" And we said, "No." And he said, "She died, so we'd come home." I'm like, maybe. But that time was so meaningful to us because it was a start of it was 6 months after we got married, so that we were in this new life, and also the start of a new life and renewal without his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, and he said she was really, what did he say? She was kind of dramatic about that. It's like, she died to make a point. But there's a real beauty to the idea that we're in constant beginnings and endings, and that between those beginnings and endings are the things that make the difference. You know, we start and we go to a place, and the place where we end, the meat of it is in the middle of it. And I think that that's what a lot about what that week. Once again, I am not an expert on these things. I'm just like a Black Christian girl who married a Jewish guy. So,
but exactly why I asked you, for that reason exactly, because the point of the Festival of Hope is to learn about the tradition from a variety of points of view, so that we can all begin to value what I always find to be meaningful, sort of the backstory of every one of these rituals and traditions, whether or not they apply to you personally, always have such a beautiful and powerful meaning. And as you mentioned, in particular, as we are in the midst of this year 2020. You know, I live in California, and we just had another significant set of fires has begun today. And so when you continually feel like you're in this uncertainty, the beginnings and endings, I think, become really important. And I love that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are kind of the end caps of that. You begin the new year, and then you close the days of awe on Yom Kippur with this atonement, with this, sense of atonement and forgiveness, so that when you step into the next year, you are ready to be renewed. You are ready to release the things that do not serve you, and the ways in which you needed to atone for your own behavior. I feel like we're in a place now of like, okay, how are we going to show up for the next stage of this? How are we going to show up for 2020? Because it's still happening, and we still have some time to go forward through whatever challenges we have ahead. But if we take the time, as the whole Jewish community does during this high holy season, if we take the time, if we are inspired by that to really seriously consider how we want to show up, then we get the opportunity to, really honor that with our Jewish friends and community members.
Absolutely. And I think, like, it's one of the things that, while the specific holiday is specific to this community, I think that, like you said, all of us can sort of learn from this, because what happens when you start over? It means that you're, like I said, you're ready and you're willing. I mean, I think that you and I know each other obviously through widowhood, and through the fact that the death of our partners ended that part of our life, but it started something new because we didn't die. Which sounds really harsh, but if you are around at the end of this time, when the closing of this book, to start a new chapter, it means it's not that it's like, woohoo, it's all clear skies and everything is awesome and none of that bad stuff matters, because the bad stuff is part of what got us to where we are. We can use that to propel ourselves through that place, to that door. And I believe in that very strongly, because you're going to do something. You're either going to sit there, or you're going to die, or you're going to move forward. And we didn't die. We can't sit here. So we have to move forward.
Well, and isn't that a lesson for 2020? And so what I love about the idea, what of the meaning for opening the new book and beginning again, is that idea of showing up, having atoned for what you must atone for, and realizing that, there is a beginning and an end, because we don't celebrate that, in the regular way that the Jewish community does, as a global community, right? It's always like, if something ends, that, that's a bad thing. But when you have a regular season of beginning and endings, it starts to teach you to value both, and as you said, if you're grieving and a new life has begun because the life that you knew with the person who you grieve is no longer available, it's a different life. We open another book. And again, like you said, it doesn't mean that what was before was not valuable. It just means that you can't live that way anymore, because that life is not available. And I think it's also true as we go forward into 2020, right? Is that we are all in a position now where the life we were living just 1 year ago is no longer available to us, and we are living a different life, and we have to choose how we're going to show up for that.
I was thinking that because you and I should have basically seen each other twice already this year.
Exactly.
you know, and
Yeah.
should be seeing each other again in November, you know. I was
Yep.
going to do Tampa, and then I was going to do San Diego, and then we talked about doing Toronto, and none of those things are happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, we should have, there are things that should have happened, but what do we do? I mean, we've been able to connect this way. We've been able to say, if that is not available to us, what can we make available to do the work we have to do and touch the people that we have to touch? And I think that you all, if I can give a shout out to you and to what Soaring Spirits do, is it on the very basic, you say, hey, you're people who need people, and I'm willing to be your people. And there's nothing more, because I get it. I get the sucktastic thing that's happened to you. Yeah. And now the world is in this place. I mean, everyone I've talked to in the last month for anything like this has been, whether it's about widowhood or just general loss or just the general sort of winds of blah, or that we're all feeling it, no matter if we've lost a loved one or if we've lost a job or if we've lost money or some sort of financial opportunity that we've lost.
Yeah, like, right. I mean, trips, events, family parties, birthdays, big birthdays, you know, the decade birthdays. I feel like, just like you said, there's so many things, and we don't compare one to the other. It's just this whole collection of things that are not what they were.
And not what they were. I mean, we just did, my grandmother turned 94 last week, and we did her party on Zoom. My husband would have turned 50 today. And so we're going to eat crabs.
The 50 one.
Yeah. So, and I turned 50 next year. And like my friends and I, we've been talking about this for 2 years, like several groups of friends, like, oh, we're going to go to Vegas and we're going to go to Jamaica. And no, we're not. We're not doing those things.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, even if they were available, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing them. So we're going to hopefully see each other, you know, in a way that does not involve getting on a plane, and celebrate in that way. But what's more important, the fact that we got to go to Vegas or the fact that we got to live another day and see each other, even if it's over Zoom, and say, I love you and I'm glad that you're here for another year.
Yeah, for sure. Right. We're all going to have to find our way through you know, and then it speaks to that. How do we show up? You know, do we show up and we're only bemoaning what we can't have, or are we showing up trying to figure out how we maintain the higher level priority, as you said, like staying connected to the people, being able to, you know, say, well, when the day comes, we're going to be together. And until then, we're going to, you know, fill in the blank. And for Soaring Spirits, Festival of Hope is one of the answers for us. It was like, okay, well, we can't show up for people in person in the way we had planned. We had 6 events planned this year, 1 of which we were able to hold, and 5 of which we had to, you know, postpone to whenever. And so, what can we do? We're trying to find ways to show up, and I love that. You know, circling all the way back to Yom Kippur, that the Jewish community honors the beginnings and the endings of our lives in such a consistent and annual way, and encourages people to take the time to think about how you want to show up in the world, because atonement, forgiveness, releasing what doesn't serve you, all of that comes back to, how am I going to show up tomorrow? And who am I going to support? And how am I going to make my little corner of the world a better place? I feel like that's just such a powerful message that, you know, anyone of any religious background or, you know, whatever that looks like for them could benefit from that.
Absolutely.
Well, my friend, it has been really a lovely time with you. I'm celebrating your Scott today, 50 years.
50 years.
50 years, you know what? 50 years of him changing the world, because he's still changing the world through you, lady.
Isn't that crazy? And I feel a little like conceited going, it was through me. But yeah, no, I love you, and I'm so happy for everything that you have done, and the way that you've reached out to us and to everyone to say you can get through this, and it's greatly appreciated.
Well, I thank you. To all of you, Festival of Hope Week this week, we'll be talking about release and renewal. And to all of our Jewish community members, I am so grateful for the ways in which the traditions that so many of our community members have shared with us have influenced the way I see the world. So I'm endlessly grateful for all of my Jewish community members and friends. And yours too, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, be well, and I will look forward to seeing you back here on Thursday when we do our Zoom event. Bye, Leslie. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good rest of the day.
You too.